Hello and welcome to our millions of viewers here in Nigeria, the continent, and all around the world. This is Lunchtime Politics, where we dissect stories and events in the political landscape and terrain here in Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. Here's what is on our radar this hour. President Bola Tinubu confers posthumous honors on 4 Ogoni chiefs killed during the Ogoni crisis in the 90s. Plus, on the program, Vice President Kashim Shettima reiterates the calls for a permanent seat for Nigeria at the United Nations Security Council. Lunchtime Politics starts right now. Well, many thanks indeed for joining us on the program. We'll get to dissect some issues really pressing in the security architecture of this country. Precisely, the spotlight will be on Plateau State. But first things first, President Bola Tinubu has directed the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, to immediately commence engagement between the Ogoni people, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, its partners and relevant stakeholders to finalize modalities for the resumption of oil exploration in Ogoni land. The President gave this directive when he received the report of the Ogoni Consultation Committee at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. The President also conferred posthumous national honors of the Commander of the Order of the Niger on 4 former Ogoni leaders. Our State House correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
About 8 months after he set up the Ogoni Consultation Committee, President Bola Tinubu is here to receive report of the committee.
Your Excellency.
The National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, presents the report, highlighting major findings of the committee.
While not forgetting past injustices, have reached a point of collective readiness to see the responsible resumption of oil production in Ogoni land, anchored on fairness, equity, environmental responsibility, and direct community benefit. Secondly, the Ogoni people are not merely asking for tokenism, but for structured participation. Given the convergence of environmental remediation and renewed operations, the report strongly recommends the repositioning of high-prep in a manner that synchronizes with the dialogue process.
The chairman of the committee says the report reflects the collective will of the people of Ogoni land.
What are the key findings of our consultation? The consultation revealed an unmistakable, overwhelming consensus of our people's readiness for resumption of responsible oil production in Ogoni.
Governor Simina Lai Fubara of Rivers State commends President Tinubu's commitment towards remediation of the Ogoni land.
There is every sign that this government is serious about resolving these issues, and I think we need to give them all the necessary opportunity and time to ensure that this problem is resolved once and for all.
The report is then handed to the President. In his remarks, President Tinubu notes the importance of peace in Ogoni land for development to take place, as he directs more engagements to fast-track resumption of oil drilling, which was halted in the area in 1993.
I'm directing the National Security Advisor to commence immediately engagement between the Ogoni people and NNPCL. It is joint venture partners and all relevant stakeholders with a view to finalizing modalities to begin operations. To align the environmental remediation with renewed oil production, the aqueduct composition remediation (APREP) must ensure effective and efficient functionality as an instrument of action. I therefore direct the Honorable Minister of Environment to work with the National Security Advisor and myself to fully integrate programs into broader dialogue and implementation process.
The president also confers posthumous national honors of Commander of the Order of Niger on some former Ogoni leaders.
Chief Edward Kobani, CON, posthumous. Chief Albert Badi, CON, posthumous. Chief Samuel Orage, CON, posthumous. Chief Toflios Orage, CON, posthumous.
The implementation of the recommendations contained in the report, stakeholders believe, will promote development in Ogoni land, even as President Bola Tinubu has continued to assure of his administration's commitment to promoting an inclusive governance in the country. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, more commendations are coming in for President Bola Tinubu. This time, the National Youth Council of Nigeria will have commended the president for what they are describing as his youth-friendly policies. According to them, they were speaking shortly after being re-elected as president of the council for a second term of 4 years. Mr. Sokubo Seregbe is thanked President Tinubu for his commitments to youth development. In the meantime, the Bayelsa State Commissioner for Youth Development is calling on the NYCN to push for youth development programs.
Restiveness and other forms of vices would not help us. We need to be creative, not just only in tertiary education, but in technical, vocational, entrepreneurship, education, in addition to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and all the educations you're talking about. And that is what I think the National Youth Council is elected to promote for the inclusivity and inclusion of all youths.
We believe that the current government, under the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has given enough to the youth constituency. There are so many youth developmental projects and funds for small-scale business. The presidency has deposited onto a scheme of affairs of the Youth Council.
Well, let's turn to security matters now in Katsina State, where Governor Diko Rada has been explaining the recent peace talks with some bandit leaders in that state. According to the governor, bandit leaders initiated the move for peace with the state government, and he's making efforts to ensure that the peace deals work. This formed part of discussions at the high-level security meeting held at the government house in the state capital.
I have been saying in various fora that I will never reach out to bandits for peace, deal at the point of weakness, as enshrined in the Islamic rights. That's why we intensified our efforts in the fight against banditry. To God be the glory. If you can check out my previous speeches, I proclaim that if any bandit reaches out to us seeking for peace, we will accept the offer. And this is what is currently happening in Katsina State. We have never requested for peace dialogue with any bandits. Rather, the bandits have been seeking for the peace deal, because bandits, mostly led by Babaru Kingpin, have been so anxious for peace, and soldiers, on the other hand, disagreed, saying that they must kill him. The army have been searching for Babaru for almost 8 days now, and I personally called the brigade commander to please sheath his sword so that we can sit with the repentant bandits. However, they refused to listen to my plea, stating that they have directives and that the president will not take any excuses from them. So this is the situation on ground. But from the look of things, we'll have a peace deal with bandits across the states, though it's still remaining Kankara, Faskari, Sabua, and some parts of the Katsina local government area. Sample in the Jibia.
All right, so let's get to dissect issues around insecurity, precisely in the northern part of Nigeria, just away from Katsina State, precisely now to Plateau State, where very recently the Plateau State government received a report of a high-powered facts-finding committee on recent attacks in that state. They're really very, very concerning and disturbing numbers. But we're joined this afternoon by a former director of the Department of State Services, Mr. Michael Jeffo, who joins us live now on Lunchtime Politics from our Abuja studios. Thank you indeed, Mr. Jeffo, for agreeing to be here on the show this afternoon. Let's critically look at this report again, because it is really, really disturbing. From that report presented to the Plateau State's Governor, Caleb Mutrang, there are really, really concerns there. Over 420 communities in Plateau State were attacked between 2001 and 2025. Over 12,000 deaths were also recorded in that period. But there are those who believe that these numbers could be more.
Yeah. It's quite unfortunate and very scary, the figures being reeled out. For 12,000 people to be killed, recorded, that's on record now from what you said. It could be more than that. And we're talking of human lives. This is quite disturbing. And I don't know how we can handle this situation, because the killing is still ongoing. But if you look at the governor setting up a panel, we've had series of panels, and the outcomes are hardly implemented. And now we want to believe that governor should summon and have the political will to implement the outcomes or the recommendations of the panel, even though we don't have the details of the panel's report. I've seen some clips by the chairman of the committee of the panel, where he made some comments that while presenting the report, that the issue in Plateau is virtually not a religious matter, but it's between the headers and settlers, and that all the communities, major stakeholders were invited, and they got cooperation with them. I believe that they must have interacted very well, and the outcome will be, because I also heard him on the presentation of the report that he hopes that the governor will have the political will to implement the recommendations, because some of them might not be popular, some might be popular, depending on the aspect and the way you view it from. We don't expect that the outcome will be pleasing to everybody. So I want to believe that the governor will be able to look at the report and implement the recommendations of it. Because this carnage is unbecoming. We're talking of human lives. Where's our humanity? We have lost it completely, that we now count human beings as if we are counting chickens. It's quite unfortunate and quite disturbing, because I remember that in my younger days, people go on holiday, tourism in Plateau State. For now, it's no more, and it's quite disturbing, honestly.
Mr. Jeffo, I'm just looking at the reports, some pieces of it on my table here. The engagement, of course, with the committee, with security agencies, traditional rulers, community leaders, and civil society groups, and they had to visit about 17 local government areas, affected communities in those local government areas. Just as you've mentioned, the findings, they say they've pegged it on ethnic mistrust, land dispute, kidnappings, cattle rustling. But one of the consistent stay there is the issue of armed Fulani militias. And that's a big concern for many persons in terms of these coordinated attacks, which we see being carried out in not just in Plateau State, but in some other areas of the north as well. How do we then begin to put an end to this? Because some would say that some of these militias are not even Nigerians.
Yeah, I think if we rely strictly on the kinetic approach, we might not make any result. So we need a combination of a kinetic and non-kinetic approach. And I believe that that's why the governor set up that panel. You know, the people who are aggrieved, like the Fulani militia, they are non-Nigerians, they are only assisting, in quote, people they believe they are on their own people, and attacking communities, killing people. That is also quite disturbing. So I don't know whether the committee was able to reach out to this very group of people who are not Nigerians, but have been able to continue to attack various communities. Like you said, this problem is not only restricted to Plateau State. I saw your intro when you were talking about what is going on in Katsina. That is also quite disturbing, because before you negotiate with people, they should be able to tell you what do they want, what are their demands. So you don't see people say you have a peace deal, and the people are coming up with sophisticated weapons, and you say you are negotiating, you are having peace deal with the people. Is not only disturbing but worrisome. So I also believe that the panel must have reached out to these Fulani militia or representative. I don't know what their demands are. And so I think that makes it difficult for the panel. But they have finished their report, and I believe that having submitted the report, the governor will have the political will to implement the outcomes, because Plateau remains very with good climate, good weather, good soil for agriculture and all this. So we're all wasting our time, and it also gets to affect food security in that area with the Benue problems too.
Mr. Ejiofor, I mean, I like the fact that you have had to emphasize on the phrase, the political will from the governor, because he has assured that these recommendations will not be ignored. But the governor is also saying that, you know what, I'm going to synthesize the findings and then forward the findings to the president and relevant authorities for urgent action. And that begs the question of the powers of state governments. We've had this back and forth, where the governor is the chief security officer of the state, but then some governors have had to cry out loud to say, you know what, I do not have the powers, I do not have the authority to nip insecurity in the bud.
Yeah, it's a good step from the governor of Plateau State, because he cannot on his own implement the recommendations, whatever the recommendations are. I think he should liaise with the federal government, study get the security agencies, the national security advisor, get them involved, and see how they can implement the recommendations of the panel. And that also brings to the issue of when you talk of governors, some governors complaining that they are not chief security officer because they don't have security under their command and control, like the police, the army, and all these things. That's why there has to be liaison between the federal government and the state governments. You look at what is happening in Katsina, the federal government is not involved in that. And I don't know the basis on which the governor is negotiating peace deals with these enemies of the state. Because I call them enemies of the state. People at times begin to compare what happened in Niger Delta when you have this agitation for resource control. Their demands were clear, and they were clear in what they want. Look at what is happening. The way the president is also handling this Ogoni issue. I think that's the way to go. But when a governor on his own wakes up without involvement of the federal government to get a peace deal with bandits, still displaying arms in the full glare of the... I think the governor should also come out and tell Nigerians what he's doing, and not only telling Nigerians, he should also invite the bandits, the people to come and tell Nigerians that you come and brazenly and openly display arms with chains of multifaceted with
Mr. Jeffo,
firearms and still
yes,
negotiating deal. It's quite.
Mr. Jeffo,
I can't put it together.
Yes, I mean, but in your earlier submission, you had subscribed to kinetic and non-kinetic approach.
Yes, I did. A non-kinetic approach will include congregating the demands of the people. But in this case, what are their demands? We don't know their demands. So if you look at you bring non-kinetic, like getting people employed in those areas, providing necessary infrastructure, building of schools, and getting these people, conscientizing them. And these are part of the non-kinetic approach. But a situation where you have bandits who have not told you what they want, and you are negotiating with them, I think it doesn't add up.
All right. Let's look at the wider picture of insecurity, especially in the northern parts of the country. There are those who say there's a resurgence of insurgency in the north. Some even believe that insecurity has spiraled out of control in some certain areas now. I wonder what you think and what you think could be responsible for this very recent and latest resurgence.
Yeah, you see insecurity, not only in the northern part of Nigeria, some parts of Nigeria, has now become a franchise. People are feeding from it, and because of the hard times, the economic hard times, people tend to go into criminality. They have easy access in recruiting their foot soldiers who have no means of livelihood. That's why I say that the non-kinetic should get part of the solutions to getting people involved and employed, provide social amenities. And if you look at Borno, for instance, who have internally displaced persons who cannot even go back to their places because it's not safe. So if you have such safe areas and you deploy civil defense and other people to assure them that they can go back to their various communities to stay. But when they continue to remain in IDPs, it becomes a problem. And the people who are not employed are easy targets of these bandits because they kidnap, they seize and get money. So they think that's the best way to go. So it has become a franchise. If you don't have anything to do, you go into criminality, go into kidnapping, and collect money from people.
And speaking about that, the business of kidnapping and all of that, in terms of arms now, despite efforts, because you're a former director of the DSS, so despite security agencies and your efforts to mop up arms, sometimes people wonder where these bandits and insurgents get their weapons from.
Well, you remember that some of these bandits, especially the Boko Haram, have affiliations with foreign terrorist organizations. So they get their arms there. They also, from their kidnap, from the ransom paid to them, they purchase more arms. So that is how they get their arms. And our borders are very porous. But you also agree with me that recently, the intelligence has been intensified and many arrests are being made. Some of their leaders are being arrested, and as soon as they are arrested, interrogated, and debriefed, they should be able to give the source of their arms. And with that, the security agencies can swing into action to block and check all these. Another major problem is the issue of our judiciary. The judicial process is slow, but you can see that when the Lakurawa leaders didn't take the SSS time to get these people interrogated and they're undergoing prosecution.
Right.
So another way of checking this is conclusive prosecution of the case so that the people who are involved are convicted and put out of the society.
Yes.
By so doing, they will have some peace.
I'm trying to see how I can squeeze in as many questions as possible because we have about 2 or 3 more minutes to go. In 2024, you said your position on paying ransom changed when you were kidnapped. Has it changed again, or can people pay ransom now?
Well, it's a personal decision. If unless you are involved, you will be in a position to decide whether you are going to pay ransom or not. But the position of government, position of best practice of law, you don't pay ransom. But until you are involved, before my own incident in 2017, I had insisted that people don't pay ransom. But when you are personally involved, it's your decision to pay or not to pay. And exactly, yeah.
Mm. I'm not sure it's an experience that many Nigerians would want to have. I'm not sure it was a palatable experience for you to have changed your position. But allow me, Mr. Jofo, maybe one or two final questions here this afternoon. The DSS, your former employer, something a bit different. They've had to broker the meetings between Nupeng, Dangote, and Dapman now, and then of course we've seen the back and forth between the DSS and human rights activists, Shore, and all of that. Some persons are saying that, what exactly is the role of the DSS? Is this more like out of place for the DSS to be performing some of these functions?
Well, it's for people who don't understand. If you have a disruption of supply of PMS in Nigeria, you know the economic impact, negative economic impact it will have in the country. And these are purely national security issues. So the SSS will not fold its hand without intervening in such a matter until it becomes a major problem and possibly spiral into major security challenge in the country. So, and I think from comments, you can see that people are even commending the DGSSS. We are talking of Showore. Ordinarily, what would have been done is for the DG to order the arrest of Showore, but his own new approach of professionalism, he had decided not to do that, than to go to court and let the court decide. I think that's the best way. That's what democracy and rule of law is all about. So I think he should be commended for that.
It's a fine place to anchor our conversation. Mr. Michael Jofo is the former director of the Department of State Services, DSS. Thank you indeed for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And just before we go, Vice President Kashim Shettima is calling for a permanent seat for Nigeria, the UN Security Council, as part of a wider process of institutional reforms of the United Nations. The Vice President was speaking while presenting Nigeria's address on behalf of President Bola Tinubu to the UN General Assembly's 80th session in New York on Wednesday evening. The Vice President also is warning that the global body must embrace sweeping restructurings or face growing irrelevance of world events increasingly bypass its influence. And that session there, the 80th session of the UN, does it for us on the program this afternoon. On behalf of the production team and everyone here, I am Kelly Egiga, and you have been served on Lunchtime Politics. Good afternoon.